So there's a report that Trump is having a rift with Netanyahu. Now we've heard about 200 of these, but they seem to be getting a little bit more real, and Netanyahu's reacting to it. So Anna, tell us the facts so we can sort out what's actually happening.
Well, Netanyahu, of course, had his media tour over at Fox News where he was interviewed on a few different shows. And he was asked about his relationship with Donald Trump, whether or not it's actually strained. Let's hear what Netanyahu had to say.
Is the relationship with the president under strain right now? He's been pretty direct in some of his criticism of you and as Israel, some of the aggression against Hezbollah, and your thoughts about that.
Yes. Well, first of all, we see eye to eye on just about everything. And sometimes, as happens among the best of allies, and we are the best of allies, there can be differences of opinion. We usually speak about it in open conversation. You can imagine the president has his way of expressing things, and so do I. But we are, we're allies. We're your model ally. And we respect the United States of America. And if you come to Israel, it is the one nation here in this region that is not only a democracy, but a democracy in which the overwhelming majority of the people unabashedly support the United States of America. So my relationship with the president is fine.
A lot to unpack there with Netanyahu's statements. Number one, Trump did enjoy a lot of support from the Israelis until he decided that he wanted to attempt to work toward a peace deal with Iran and end the war. That was when public opinion polls in Israel indicated that more and more Israelis were not as supportive of Trump as he would like to believe they are. Also, the other thing to note here is, look, the Israelis will be supportive of the president as long as the president serves as their dog. And that goes for Israeli politicians as well. As we know, Donald Trump was lied to by Mossad, by Netanyahu in regard to what would happen with a war against Iran. It would be super quick, it would be so easy, Trump would be such a hero. The people of Iran are just itching to take to the streets and overthrow the regime. But after we bombed an elementary school in the opening salvo of this war, after we killed dozens of Iran's leaders, was there an uprising in Iran?
No, well, actually there was, in a matter of speaking, earlier in the show, we showed you the largest maybe funeral procession in the history of humanity for their slain leader, the Grand Ayatollah Khamenei. So there was an uprising in favor of the government, which by the way, I'm not in favor of the Iranian government. So well played, schmucks. You got us, the Iranian regime, more entrenched than ever. And that maybe you shouldn't listen to the Israelis because they don't know what they're doing. But I know we're forced into following whatever Israel wants. So I'm just gonna break down two of his lies real quick. We unabashedly support Americans. No, you unabashedly murder Americans. Israel has killed 10 Americans in the last 3 years and has had 0 arrests, has not put anyone in jail, not brought anyone to justice. Because what they're saying to us is, we control you so thoroughly. We're gonna get the 4 billion every year. We're gonna get 21 and 13 billion extra for more genocides, more wars. We're gonna make you pay over $100 billion for this war, 113 billion and counting last we went. And we're gonna force you into every war. And we're not gonna do anything for you at all. We're gonna steal all your secrets, we're gonna steal your nukes, we're gonna steal everything from you. And that's how we support Americans. And we'll get all of our bought news actors on television to tell you, oh, Israel's your friend. You didn't tell them how we bombed their ship, right? And how we stole their nuclear secret and built a weapon of mass destruction. Hey, servants, news actors, get out there and do Israeli propaganda. And they all do. Last one. Look, at this point with allies like Israel, you don't need enemies because they create nonstop enemies for you. They attack, and they want more and more land and more wars. So now America has enemies we never had before and didn't need. Why do we need to be fighting with the Persians? We're not even in the Middle East. It has nothing to do with us. But Israel demands it. And everyone in our government and everyone in our media, while not working for Israel, demand that we do everything Israel commands us to do.
That's right. Now, on a different Fox show, Netanyahu was asked if he will respect the decisions that Trump makes in regard to the war against Iran. What a great question. That's actually a really good question. So how did he answer it? Take a look.
Last month, the president made clear that you're going to have to accept whatever deal with Iran that the U.S. reaches. He told the Financial Times he won't have any choice. I call the shots. And then he doubled down on this yesterday, telling Axios Netanyahu knows who the boss is. Do you accept that the U.S. would have final say when American and Israeli interests diverge?
I think that the real question is, do we have differing goals when it comes to Iran? And the answer is no. We are set on the same goal. We want to see Iran give up its nuclear weapons program. We want to see the nuclear enriched material removed. We want to see the enrichment sites for nuclear material dismantled. We have other common objectives. And President Trump believes that after the battering that the two of us, Israel and the United States and Israel, gave to Iran, he thinks that he can generate enough leeway, enough pressure through the negotiations to get these goals achieved. And we respect that, and I hope he succeeds. But I can tell you this, deal or no deal, as long as I'm prime minister, Iran will not have nuclear weapons.
Now, of course, Netanyahu has reverted back to pretending like Israel's interests in this war against Iran only have to do with its nuclear program, which was always the cover story. It was never about a nuclear program. It was always about Israel desperately wanting to either topple the regime or turn Iran into a failed state. That has always been Israel's goal. Now, was that the objective of the United States? Well, I don't know. At the beginning of the war, when Trump listed what the US objectives were, he purported to want regime change, but then he realized, oh, wait, this is actually not as easy as Mossad and the Israelis told me it was gonna be, and then he moved off that goal. Now, has Netanyahu moved off that goal? Of course not. So we have diverging objectives here. Iran doesn't have a nuclear program, and in fact, by attacking Iran, what do you think we did? We have encouraged them to race toward nuclear weapons because nuclear armed countries don't get attacked. It serves as a deterrent.
So look, there's a super simple answer. No, Israel doesn't have to do what we want. First of all, we also don't have to do what Israel wants. That's the part of the equation that's never said in American media. Like it's assumed, of course you must serve Israel. If Israel wants something, how dare you even question it? But the media will paint it as, oh, it's also an American interest. And they never explain how. Sometimes they give us technology. Do they? They sell us whatever technology they have, like they would to any other country in the open market. But they give you intelligence, do they? They give us intelligence about who to kill. That's their enemies, not our enemies. They create more enemies.
They spy on us, number one.
They spy on us, oh, you get it, okay? Yeah. So, but on top of that, here he's saying, oh yeah, we have the same interests and we want to end every shred of their nuclear program. But wait a minute, that's not what Trump is saying. Trump is saying we want to end any potential nuclear weapons program. We want to take the enrichment out of the country. That part is relatively true. But in terms of ending any nuclear program, no, he added that part. And oftentimes they'll add the part. So he says, oh, we have many other goals, like regime change. No, that's not a US goal at all. We end all of their proxies. Take over their foreign policy? That's not a US goal, right? These are all Israeli goals, pretending that they're American goals. So, and then in terms of who has to listen to who, well, brother, you don't have to listen to us and we don't have to give you money. And we don't have to use our military on your behalf. That's how an alliance works. Oh, we're the guys with more money in the military you need, so we're asking you to do certain things. Oh, you don't want to do them? No problem. Withdrawing the military, withdrawing the money. That's how any rational actor would act. But our media says, no, we should be irrational. We should let them boss us around, never listen to anything we say, and then we owe them the money. And you're never to question their funding. And by the way, in all these articles, every reporter in the country pretends to be in the single digits in IQ, like the dumbest people in the whole country going, I don't know how America can find leverage against Israel. I guess we're gonna have to do whatever they say. There's nothing we could do. Like no article ever says, or we could just take their money away. Because they think that is unconscionable. It's not even, you can't even consider it. No, you must give Israel your money. Otherwise, you're an anti-Semite. Hand over your wallet. Okay.
It's insane. Absolutely insane.
Absolutely insane. But wait, we're not done yet. Is this a thing that Israel does on a regular basis with other countries? Like even if the public opinion is against Israel, you just work with their leaders to betray their citizens? Well, let's find out from Netanyahu himself.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
What was your reaction when you heard that?
Let me tell you where we have support, because it's fashionable now, and in many countries, because their media and their social media are inundated with anti-Israel, anti-Semitic material. Many leaders, call me up and say, "Hey, look, I've got this problem with public opinion, but I want you to know we respect you, and can we make some deals? And can you teach us some of the things that your military does? And can we have some of your AI and cyber expertise?" Israel is the #2 country in cyber in the world, and our technology is absurd. It's so good. So the relations are not quite as they appear, and we have many, many friends.
That was actually a startling admission. He talks to other world leaders. They say that they have a problem with public opinion, meaning their voters, their citizens, hate Israel, not because they're anti-Semites, but because Israel committed a genocide right in front of our own eyes. And Israel keeps attacking all of its neighbors. So whether they're Irish or Lebanese or Spanish, it doesn't really matter, or South Korean. They all see the same videos. They all see the same facts. They see Israel constantly invading, attacking. But Netanyahu says, yeah, but I talked to their leaders who are bought bitches.
Totally.
And they say, hey, let's make a deal and betray our own citizens. Thank you for the confession.
He just did that with Joseph Aoun in Lebanon.
Yeah, oh, hey. And they do the same thing that Pablo Escobar does, right? Silver or lead. So either we're gonna give you a lot of money and you're gonna be a good boy, and we're gonna make deals. We're gonna make deals with you, okay? Israel is, or you're gonna get lead. We're gonna call you a terrorist and murder you and your entire family, like we did with the leaders of Iran, the leaders in Gaza, the leaders everywhere. If we don't like a leader, we just call them a terrorist and murder them. And then American media comes in and pretends that we're fighting terrorists. Well, we are the terrorists, right? Yep. So that's Israel 101. But every once in a while, Netanyahu slips up and just says it on TV. He's like, yeah, they have problems with public opinion, but it's okay because we've got their leaders locked up with sweet deals. Okay, now, by the way, you think that doesn't apply to us?
Of course.
The Israeli lobby funds 94% of Congress. And they're the #1 lifetime donor to almost every president in our lifetimes. But did American media ever tell you that? No, they assiduously hid that fact from you. Isn't that amazing? Imagine if China had contributed to 94% of Congress and was the top lifetime donor for Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I mean, geez, forget China. Imagine if France was. It'd be so weird. We'd be like, why are the French investing so much money into lobbying America and purchasing all of our politicians? That would be incredibly strange. Imagine if Nicaragua did it, right? It would be so strange. But when Israel does it, all of American media says, that's normal, that's normal. It's great.
What about Qatar? What about Qatar?
And remember, we don't care about your public opinion. We've made deals with Israel. But once you quote Netanyahu back to them, what they'll tell you is anti-Semite.
Yeah, it's a great argument to refute facts.
Yeah, they'll say,
call people anti-Semites.
Oh, no, you're saying that they control the government and the media, and we invented a thing called tropes to trick you and to pretend that very legitimate criticism that we ourselves, our own prime minister, admits on your television sets, right? But if you say what he said, then we'll use this trope to call you an anti-Semite and try to make sure that you never speak out against Israel. That way, no one will be around to object when Israel asks for the next war and the next $100 billion and then 100 billion after that and another trillion for another war. And so, yes, Netanyahu is coming to America. He's gonna pass out more bribes. He's gonna manipulate and control more American politicians and media. And they're gonna try to drive you again into more wars, even though they know you don't want it. But you're an inconvenience to them. That's why they purchased your leadership. And that's why they don't care about American public opinion anymore. 60% against Israel, racing towards 80% against Israel. It doesn't matter. We already bought all of your politicians and all of your media to cover it up. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. totally not true. But it does keep you updated on our live shows.